yearly upgrade strategy is sometimes more complicated than users would like. The Pro models usually get a full refresh each year, so your decision to stick with that phone another year or upgrade really depends on how much you care about the changes, and even those are often minor. Now, in the case of the regular models, that's a different story. Apple doesn't just make the changes between them a bit more of a blur, but then decides to keep the older model for another year, or sometimes even two at a discounted price. Obviously, going for 2019's iPhone 11 might be a hard sell given its legacy features, but things change if you don't go that far. On one corner, we have the iPhone 13, what Apple dubs as your new superpower for whatever odd reason, and then on the other, we have the iPhone 12, what Cupertino considers, at least last year, blast pass fast. Now, the price difference between them is so insignificant that all we need to determine now is if the newer model is worth it. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and this is iPhone 13 versus iPhone 12, sponsored by SUPCASE. Stick around to learn how you can win an iPhone 13 Pro Max and an iPhone 13 of your own. This is the second year and maybe even the last where we get a mini version of these two iPhones. If a smaller form factor is beneficial to you, I think it's safe to consider this comparison as also applicable to either of those models. That said, keep in mind that this means the same features for less money if you go for the mini, which might be considerable if you're on a budget. Alright, so right off the bat, let's just be honest about how much these two lineups just look like each other. Same aluminum build that's standard on any flagship, but with a matte finish that ages even better than some of the Pro models and also makes these phones lighter in the hand. Now, the only color shared across these models is product red. The 13 then brings new options and tones like Starlight that's a bit more like a hue of gold, or a better alternative to the old blue that I regret getting on the Mini. I also like their finish, which might look glossy at a glance, but does a great job at deterring fingerprints given the flat color beneath. The differences begin once you measure their footprint though. Surely they're both the same height and width, but the 13 is a hair thicker and about 10 grams heavier. As for the why, a lot of it has to do with internals. The 13 series brings a lot more battery capacity, which is then matched by an A15 Bionic. And yes, it's the same 5nm as the A14 Bionic, but under an updated process that's more powerful, efficient, and brings new perks like a better and newer ISP for photos. RAM is then shared, but one of the major reasons to consider the 13 is because you also get double the storage, even if getting that extra amount of storage on the 12 is only an extra $50. 5G capabilities, their IP rating, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth options are then all the same, along with their MagSafe capabilities. Now, flipping them around is not necessarily as different here as it is on the Pro models. They both bring technically the same Super Retina XDR OLED with the same HDR certifications, same peak brightness, and the same 60Hz refresh rate. Where they vary is that in regular use, the 13 is almost 200 nits brighter, and the smaller notch that rearranges the earpiece even if you're not getting any more use of that extra space by the user interface. That said, they're both gorgeous and color accurate for content consumption. For this reason alone, an iPad mini is not just all I need, but honestly, which is then adequately matched by dual firing speakers on each device. And surely they're not as thin as on an iPad Pro. Both phones also bring the same ceramic shield protection, but keep in mind this is only applying to the front glass. The back has less protection, and the aluminum doesn't really handle drops onto concrete well, so I do recommend you grab a case, and that's where channel sponsor SUPCASE has you covered. Those of you looking to go minimalistic without losing that metallic feel, there's the UB Edge that now even includes the option for a screen protector. Those looking for a bit more color, the UB style comes with lots of options to match whatever combo speaks to you. Those looking for complete protection, the award-winning UB Pro is still unmatched in durability and all the perks you get for the price. Follow the first link in the description and give SUPCASE a try, and also don't forget to participate in our joint giveaway in the process. Now, As for the experience of using each phone on a day-to-day, well, we have iOS 15 powering the show, and there's really not much to report on differences. This isn't even one of those cases where iOS 15 offers different perks on one phone or the other. Same widgets, same functionality, and maybe just different standard wallpaper options, which I always find better on the less expensive iPhones. And as for phone calls, they sound great on both, even with the changes in the arrangement of the earpiece on the 13, and I can't really say that 5G performs better on either lineup. Now, the only evident thing to notice off the bat is battery life. Like, boy, does the 13 perform better than the 12. If you're among those that suffer from endurance and anxiety, grab the 13, as I even find that the Mini is lasting all day, while the 12, not so much. The dramatic change, at least in specifications, has everything to do with these cameras. The main reason why Apple adopted this new array design is not just to fit the 12 Pro Max's camera sensors on the 13's primary, but also to endow it with sensor shifting stabilization, which you had to pay extra for last year. The only problem is that if my after the buzz on last year's Max proved anything, it's that photos weren't really better. The camera only got faster, and that's sort of the case here. See, during the day, I'd be hard-pressed to find any differences, and that's even with the change in optics. Whether you go ultra-wide, standard, or even 2x digital, I can't even say I consider the 13 to be any faster than the 12, and yeah, that 5x is not great, even if the processing on the newer model is different. The photo modes on the new iPhones are cool ways to add some unique expressions, but it's not like if the gloom in New York City doesn't already add to that element, you'll have a hard time noticing differences. And then once you kick into low light, you will notice the 13 is faster at taking photos than the 12, but I can't say its results are dramatically better unless you look at the ultra-wide. It's as if the processing isn't really different regardless of which phone you're looking at. Now, that processing also doesn't make portrait selfies any better in low light, even if those selfies during the day are pretty good. I mean, Deep Fusion handles both skin tones and separation better than most of the phones out there. Same thing for video. Both of these iPhones produce results that I'd recommend to anyone from both the primary shooters and the selfie camera, even if I can't really say stabilization is dramatically better thanks to that in-body option that comes in the 13 series. Also, that cinematic video is a nice feature I can't show you here because editing 10-bit video on an 8-bit video is a nightmare, and if I'm being honest, I can handle the 1080p resolution, but not the 30 frames per second if I'm intending to call that cinematic. To conclude, let's just say this comparison was a lot harder than the one I did for the Pro models recently. I mean, those brought better cameras, high refresh rate on the displays, and made the case for no longer needing to go max to reap all the benefits of the best iPhone. Now, when it comes to the regular models, the choice almost doesn't feel like if you're actually having one. You get the same hardware, pretty much the same software, different camera specifications, but then nearly the same results. And even if you get more storage on the 13 series, you still pay less money in boosting to that same option if you pick the 12. Really, the only difference worth considering is battery life, and isn't that an irony? But hey, endurance is the feature we all depend on most with any phone we buy. The 13 does perform dramatically better than the 12 in that department, regardless of which size you pick. It's basic elements like this, plus the battery degradation complaints of the 12 that I dealt with my Max, that really compel me to think the 13 is a better buy. Sure, you pay a bit more, but not really that much if last year's model doesn't handle the basics that well. Anyways, that's just me. Let us know which one you would pick in the comments down below. And hey, while you're at it, follow us on social media, subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on my personal handles to see me finally pick the newer iPhone over the old one for odd reasons. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.